It's exactly 7 a.m. Good morning, and it's a Monday, the 5th of September. I'm Andrew Bariji. I welcome you to Smart Means Business, and in particular, this segment of the news recap, where we go through the week's previous news stories making headlines into the world of business. I would want to also officially welcome you from the weekend. It's a Monday, as I told you, and it's a back-to-school week. Majority of the parents are preparing to take back their kids to school, and of course it's the joy of every parent to ensure that their child attains the best education, and of course we wish the best for them to ensure that they can succeed into their academics, and of course the future is bright. Let's get straight into the news recap, and we're going to start with the modern farming. The International Crane Foundation along with the Ruchiga district officials have started working that's with the residents to dig trenches up hills to break and reduce the velocity of the running water that destroys their crops that's washed away by the heavy rains in the mountainous sections of Ruchiga district. Let's get the report.
The level of erosion in the region has caused losses in crop plantations, including onion plantations and devastated banana plantations as a result of the high rains in the Ruchiga districts. The locals have consistently requested aid from the government. The trench digging initiative by the International Crane Foundation in the villages of the Ruchiga district is thus a blessing for the locals. Emmanuel Ariho, the Ruchiga District Environment Officer who participated in the campaign, has urged the villagers to constantly take into account activities that don't harm the environment, including modern farming and tree planting, particularly in hilly areas, to regulate the velocity of running water.
From people getting to be aware of these disasters and getting to know the skills how they can actually stop these disasters. Because we as the district, as stakeholders, that's what we are doing as now. Because people need, for example, they need trap water in their roofs, in their homesteads, so that they reduce that water that is flowing over the topsoil. Two, they need to plant trees, and actually plant these best trees which can help in agroforestry. You know, there are those trees which can be planted together with crops. These people need to understand that they need to practice good methods of farming through fertilizer application, so that when soils are rich in fertile, are rich in fertility, then they cannot be taken away by running waters as such, because the soil particles are binding together. And two, of course, they need to come on board and engage in these community gatherings, and they help in the construction of Fanya Chinya and Fanya Ju, so that they can be put on board.
Fiona Orishaba, the Worldwide Crane Foundation's field representative for southwestern Uganda, says that the organization has a soil and water conservation campaign aimed at preserving the safety of the uphills and preventing erosion from dumping garbage in wetlands.
We have an initiative called Soil and Water Conservation to keep the uphills safe. We have found out that when rain comes, it washes away the topsoil as it goes down to the wetlands, and it covers the whole wetlands, which wetlands are the breeding places of the cranes. We have come up with the sub-county leaders and the local council leaders to work with their community members, so that we dig trenches up hills, and then we plant napier grass at a later stage, so that we control this soil erosion, so that we conserve soil on the uplands, so that it becomes productive for the community.
Locals are advised to always clean up the trenches to keep them from becoming clogged.
Today I appreciate the people of this part of Gwamushu sub-county, Ibumba area, and also I appreciate International Crane Foundation for the good work done, providing the tools, providing these reeds, providing everything, and the encouragement that their staff give. I call upon the people of Ibugwe in Gwamuchuchu sub-county to make sure that they maintain these trenches dug, the commonly known as the Fanya Chini, so that they can keep stopping the running water from washing away the topsoil. And also these reeds that we have planted today, they can stop the running waters. They can also be used as feeds to the animals. They can be used as building materials and many other uses.
We would appeal or wish the community that they cooperate with us, and they always do the digging of trenches on a daily routine so that they conserve their soil. And when others come in, they come as only supporters. For example, they should also bring the equipment from their homes in addition to what we have brought to them. We have brought them so far 58 fork toys and 59 pickaxes plus like 40 spades plus axes.
The majority of the agriculturally fertile Kigezi Highlands have severe crop losses and food insecurity as a result of seasonal mudslides during rainy seasons, which inflict extensive land devastation and soil erosion, as well as losses to people, plants, and animals.
That's a great initiative right there. That's with the International Crane Foundation, along with the Ruchiga district officials engaging in food agriculture. I guess such initiatives will be very important for all other areas in Uganda, not only just Ruchiga district, but all over the places. Very important to engage into the modern farming tactics, and you can see right there preventing the velocity of the running water, and also actually it can be to prevent the soil erosion that comes and washes away those very relevant crops. And majority of the farmers are losing quite a lot deep in the villages due to the lack of the modern farming methods to ensure that they put everything right in regards to agriculture. A great initiative right there by the officials. I wish also other officials could copy that, and Uganda's agricultural sector would be boosted by a certain percentage. And now let's cross over to the role of the governor of the Bank of Uganda, still being vacant. It's nearly 7 months after the long-serving incumbent, that's Dr. Tusime Emmanuel Mutebile, passed away. The Ugandan president, Yoweri Museveni, still hasn't named a new governor for the central bank. Since January, there has been an interim governor leading the Bank of Uganda. We examined the impact of the nation of the vacancy in key to the financial position. Let's have the details.
What is taking so long to get a replacement of the late governor of Uganda? But we think the people who represented us when they were drafting the constitution found it very vital to have a full governor and then the deputy.
Dr. Martin Eting Ego, who was the deputy governor during Mutebile's tenure, is now the acting governor.
In the acting capacity, there are issues which someone in acting capacity can at times fear to execute. But, it's overdue to get a replacement. We need someone in full capacity.
Recently, the central bank released a report which revealed an increase of the central bank rate from 8.5% to 9%. This has made speculations of lack of a permanent governor is affecting the country's financial decisions.
There is no way now the Bank of Uganda can come out and say, because the price of posho and beans is so high, let us put measures to restrict traders from borrowing from commercial banks. Because the measure the Bank of Uganda is implementing is restricting us to borrow money from the banks. So it makes loans very expensive. And what is again puzzling us? When they are promoting local borrowing of the government, so we are competing with the government. It's like the government is failing us to borrow so that they can borrow money.
The following individuals have served as governor of Bank of Uganda since the institution was founded in 1966. Joseph Mary Mubiru, 1966 to 1971. Moses Semiano Kinji, 1971 to 1973. Onej Obel, 1973 to 1979. Henry Kajura, 1978 to 1979. Gideon Nkojo, 1979 to 1980. Leo Kibirango, 1981 to 1986. Suleiman Kegundu, 1986 to 1990. Charles Chikonyogo, 1990 to 2000. Emmanuel Tumusime Mutebire, 2001 to 2022. Now Uganda awaits to see the next governor.
Welcome back from that. And now let's cross over to the HIV AIDS, that's finance gap. In response to a drop in the AIDS donor funding in the nation, the government is expected to make the AIDS Trust Fund active. In their report that's on August 18th, the members of parliament noted that the country had lost important donors, that's including governments of Ireland and Denmark, which has contributed to a financing gap of about 457 billion US dollars, 447 billion US dollars. That's in the fiscal year 2021-2022. Let's have the details.
Since donors who have been providing 80% of the finances for the battle against HIV have been contributing less, the Parliamentary Committee on HIV/AIDS has lately reported an increase in infections and fatalities. According to the research, the lack of funding combined with the delays caused by COVID-19 had an impact on outreach efforts. Condom distribution, HIV testing and treatment, leading to an increase in new infections from 38,000 in 2020 to 54,000 in 2021. It's time, according to Dr. Sarah Kanakwa, Chief of Resource Mobilization at the Uganda AIDS Commission, for the government to put policies into action.
So generally, there is a lot of things that we must do as a country, but what is very clear is the funding for HIV from all sources, that is government of Uganda, development partners, private sector, is not meeting the need. The need is expanding, and this is why we are saying resourcing for the HIV is dwindling, it's going low. And so that discussion of the AIDS Trust Fund has resumed, because once we have this, the AIDS Trust Fund, with that 2%, and then we have the 0.1% from the mainstreaming. You see that we are collecting, we are trying to identify. You're basically identifying pots where you can be able to pull and put in the consolidated fund for HIV.
According to reports, the decrease in donor support is a result of global hiccups in the global economy. Security and climate change have become major concerns on the international scale. Because of this, the government is devising various plans because it cannot afford to keep the well-being of 1.4 million Ugandans living with HIV in a precarious position at the mercy of foreign donors.
That's regarding the HIV funding gap, as majority of the donor countries, most especially Denmark and the Republic of Ireland, dropped their the donning capabilities, so that leaves the country on a way that it should be self-sustaining, and that's really something that is really of good news. But also this can be in two ways. Sometimes it's due to the misuse of the borrowed funds, not used for what they should be used for. And majority of the Western world countries are very keen when it comes to accountability of funds that are being borrowed. But also it's a good news that the country can now stand on its own regarding financing activities that regard the citizens within the nation. And now let's cross over on the alid on economic growth. Analysts agree that Uganda's informal economy has been expanding that since 2000. This is a result of the growing labor force, particularly the young people, and also these young people who cannot be absorbed by the formal sector in the nation. Action for Liberty and Economic Development has held an economic audit to increase the economic freedom of the people in Uganda. Let's have the details of this report.
Studies have linked Uganda's sizable informal sector to the absence of other sources of income as a result of the formal sector's failure to accommodate the country's rising number of job seekers. Additionally, aggravating the problem of informality are the qualifications needed to work in the official sector. The number of new businesses and trade names registered has been dropping annually from 70,814 in 2017 to 2018 to 60,336 in 2019 to 2020, according to the Uganda Registration Service Bureau.
A micro, small and medium-sized enterprises. And the previous speaker mentioned why. If you have a punitive, it's obvious. You know, this morning I was meeting people. If it's obvious that when I start a business, you punish me, and when I grow big, you put all the taxes in my direction, I'd rather have 10 small businesses, isn't it? I'd rather have 30 small businesses, isn't it? That's why we all have very many small things. We call them side hustles. You have rentals, you have a shop, you have a small supermarket, but you can never allow any one of those to grow so that it's very visible. Because once it is visible, the taxman will spend half of the month in your business. Isn't it true? Yes, we know, you know, we can come here and discuss all these sophisticated things, but ultimately, that's what it boils down to. So we have micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises that are making less than 360 million every year. The bulk, 93%. 93% of our businesses are micro. And it's easy. When you get out of Munyonyo, you find that you have Munyonyo here. But when you look around, you find small business owners, a shop next to Munyonyo, this, a cobbler, boda boda, washing bay, and so on. Micro businesses are the bulk. And we have a huge informal sector. So our task should be, how do we support businesses, therefore, to graduate from being informal?
The absence of ethics and transparency from the regulators themselves, according to some analysts, is to blame for this.
Vision 2040 is, we want to reach somewhere in a 40-year time frame. We want to be a transformed Ugandan society from a peasant to a modern and prosperous country within 30 years. That was then, 2010, I think, thereabout. That's our vision. Now, the beauty with having a vision is that you know exactly where you are going. And if you're not moving, or if you're not moving fast enough, it's a very important thing to sit down and assess. How am I doing? How am I progressing? And so on. The challenge we find, especially as a person, John, is that as a country, we like moving goalposts. We are happy to move.
Since the informal economy operates outside the scrutiny of the tax structure, a sizable informal sector represents a structural restriction of revenue growth.
An email from URA demanding taxes. You have not even started making profits. As you grow, more taxes are applied on you. It does not incentivize you to grow. You rather remain micro and informal. So the business environment is not looking at the production part of taxing production. No, they're looking at you as an individual because you exist. They started doing that. And I think for SMEs to grow up and become big multinationals, they need that environment whereby you are not like penalized because you are growing, you are doing well. But government needs to hold you so that you can grow. And all companies across the world, successful companies have been helped by their governments.
The economy continues to bear a heavy burden from the absence of corporate formalization. Ronan Ahabwe, Andrew Barije, Smart 24.
That's an initiative to increase the economic freedom of the Ugandans. And of course, we know that the informal sector contributes the biggest percentage onto the Uganda's economy because majority of the people don't do things formally due to incentives that are put there and due to the high fees that are put there and the long procedures. So majority of the people are not able to do things formally. And of course, the fact that majority also the Ugandans are not informed as regards to what it really means to indulge into the formal sector. But with this initiative to increase the economic freedom of the people, that will be very important that the informal sector is also regulated in a way because a lot of tax revenues for the nation are being lost as a result of that, because majority of these people actually don't file back returns regarding their profits. So that becomes a great loss to the nation's income. And let's wind up the recap with starring education. The achievement of the SDG 4 depends on every child attending school and studying, so to improve the educational system in Uganda. Educators have established the novel concept, STAR Education, a teacher change program whose goal is to establish a welcoming environment, that's for both the teachers and students, resulting to enhanced foundational learning outcomes. The details.
STAR Education is an education system strengthening program for both primary and secondary education portfolios to enable learners and teachers to have a changed mindset toward education. As schools prepare for third term, the government through the Ministry of Education reviews how they are focusing on consolidating learners through different programs like STAR Education to fight misconceptions that learners face in class.
Is to consolidate learning from the past 2 terms. As the Ministry of Education and Sports, we commend your great leadership in supporting our head teachers and learners to embrace growth in mindset by role modeling in your day-to-day work. You have inspired and trained, coached and mentored your head teachers and teachers to prioritize and to incorporate strategies to promote gender inclusion, in addition to identifying and addressing learners' misconceptions in class.
Where teachers love teaching and children love learning. We think that is important because, especially for Uganda, specifically post-COVID, we are seeing a situation where we are having teachers who are having challenges because of socio-emotional issues, but not just teachers, but also school managers like head teachers, going up to DOs and inspectors of schools, up to the national level, where we're having challenges of, do teachers, for example, love teaching? And that would fit into the issues that we are seeing so far. But also at the learner level, we're having children that have come from COVID with socio-emotional challenges, among others, which have caused strikes, which have caused other behaviors in schools, like drug abuse and all that.
A lot of strategies, and more so, there is that of mindset change and intrinsic motivation for teachers. When teachers put into practice these strategies that are brought on board by STAR, no learner will be left behind. And all learners will be interested in their learning. Even teachers will like their teaching. Always when you teach, when learners are benefiting and showing you that learning is taking place, you also get excited and it motivates you naturally.
Teachers are advised to engage students more in a support growth mindset and gender responsiveness. The focus is to consolidate learners for the past 2 terms.
Starring education. That's very, very important. You know, I remember back in the days when we used to study, let me say this, that we used to study with this concept that I'm studying to pass exams. And that really, it doesn't work out that way. And I'm speaking to you, a student right there. With these initiatives, it's very important that now you study knowing what you're studying. With Steering Education, I'm really amazed that it's creating a favorable environment that's between the students and the teachers. And in this way, the students are going to be guided perfectly onto their career paths, because it's through education where we can build a progressive and successful career. But most importantly, when you take it with a positive mindset and not studying for the sake of passing, but knowing that you're studying and knowing where you're heading. So such an initiative is very, very important. And I believe the fruits of this initiative will be the future very amazing students, people that will build this economy, doing things that they have passionate at, and also things they really understand. And that's it for the recap. I'll be joining you on Smart Means Business on Ground. Jerome Paul Sonko is going to be driving you through the show and, of course, driving your business. See you on ground. Stick around. Good morning.
Smart 24, driving business.
Music is fuel that fires up our souls. Today, African music has a dominant place on the world map. This massive music movement creating waves across the globe.
I have seen the evolution and the growth of this industry.
But every movement starts with a story. And the best place to start any story is at the very beginning.
There's a primordial energy that can only have come from Africa.
This is Jordan. When it comes to classwork, Jordan is magic. Jordan shines. Jordan makes his peers better. Jordan is a true leader. White Star Magic family. Be a leader. Be magic.
A World Cup in the desert? The first one in the Middle East. The first to be held at the end of the year? That's crazy. Get ready for spectacular moves. High-flying saves. Unbelievable goals. Out of this world celebration.
Would you believe it? What a moment here!
All 64 matches live. That's over 5,000 action-packed minutes of the FIFA 2022 World Cup Qatar. Now that's crazy. Catch all the action only on SuperSport, your world of champions. On Gold TV. Love it.
He must be rich, tall, handsome, from a respectable family. He must have a maid because at our home we do not work.
Conductor Masao.
Why? Obadde olobye ku simu?
Yamunange, anti your TV enkolera.
Enjoy a new world of entertainment with over 80 TV and radio channels, plus movies from wherever you are. Download the YoTV Channels app from your app store and enjoy 30 days of free streaming with MTN.
YoTV Channels.
Say goodbye to paperwork and travel costs. Now every MTN customer can register to invest in securities anytime and anywhere with Zabu in a few simple steps. Step 1. Dial *292#. Step 2. Select option 1. Register with Zabu. Step 3. Enter your full names. Step 4. Enter your national identification number. Step 5. Enter your national identification card number. In 24 hours, you will receive an SMS confirming your registration. Congratulations, you are now ready to invest.
Smart 24, driving business.
All right, we're back, and this time around we are getting into the press release, finding out the top stories into the newspapers right there, and also
Smart 24, driving business.
Saving or securing for the future does not only mean investing in stocks, real estates, or companies, but there are so many chances of becoming a billionaire through practicing agriculture. You don't need a very big plot of land or large capital to start, but slowly by slowly you can build an empire. Uganda's economy is made up of agriculture, services, and industry sectors. But agriculture comes out as the backbone of Uganda, employing 70% of the population and contributing half of the country's exports and earnings. Agriculture being the main supplier of raw materials for several companies, and this readily market both in urban and rural areas. There are so many chances of the next billionaires coming from agriculture. From the farmers to the processors, from the processors to the traders, and from the traders to the final consumers. We shall be taking you through the whole agriculture chain.
My name is Chris Chitaka-Haman, and this is Farm Smart, showing every Friday 7 to 8 p.m. only on Smart 24 TV, driving business.
Smart 24, driving business.
Forget last season. Forget the oohs and ahs. Forget every moment that stole the show. Because the real show is here on GoTV. It's the new season. It's action-packed and it's going to be non-stop football. With over 1,000 games from more than 7 leagues and cup competitions plus a World Cup. Make sure you get the best seat in the house this new football season. Get a GoCoder with 1 month of GoTV value for only 25,000 Uganda shillings and enjoy non-stop football. GoTV Uganda. Love it.
Of course, but I'm going to start with the new vision, getting to find out the top business matters that are happening into the country. And I can see a very interesting headline here that says Agriculture Ministry explains distribution that's of tractors. Yes, and this is quite very instrumental. And let's take a look at what's really transpiring in this report. It says the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Husbandry and Fisheries is intensifying plans to mechanize agriculture by distributing more tractors to large-scale farmers. And of course, Agriculture Minister Frank Tumwebaze last week told the Parliamentary Committee on Agriculture that beneficiary large-scale farmers looking to produce on 50 acres by selected. So this is largely to benefit those farmers that are going to produce on large scale. And you know, majority of the farmers have the capability in Uganda, but the only challenge just being the aspect of let me say labor. And when I talk about labor, this case, I mean mechanized labor. So you can see that's really something very, very, very influential. And of course, as we continue with this report, in the statement, he says the 20 tractors are from the supplementary budget that you passed. That's the Frank Tumwebaze is saying. The people we give these tractors must be serious and get them from you, the members of parliament. And of course, that's Frank Tumwebaze making that statement when asked by the legislators to explain further on the criteria of selecting the tractor beneficiaries. The minister said there is no secret criteria in selecting that's the large-scale farmers, and we expect the lists to be submitted by the chief administrative officers. And of course, these are the people that are responsible to go out there and search out for those farmers that are really in need of these materials, of these mechanized tractors, to ensure that they can execute their agriculture perfectly. And further on the report, he said the ministry is also ready to work with the legislators in selecting the farmers who will be verified before the tractors are distributed. So there will be a verification process regarding to that. The minister said the 240 tractors set for distribution will beef up the work done by 325 tractors that have been given out, but that's over the last 3 months. Not 3 months, actually, the last 3 financial years. You know, so you can imagine the magnitude these trucks are going to be having in regards to being efficient. And of course, further in the statement, as I wind up this report, he says, let us agree that we cannot give our tractors evenly to the districts in the country. I may not need a tractor in Kawempe, in Kamwenge district because of the terrain, but some in Karamoja needs it. And of course, it's very important that, okay, you may not need it in your area, but someone else in some other places will need this actual tractor. And of course, now let me cross over to the Daily Monitor regarding this. And of course, as business resumes on Pakwach Bridge after water levels recede. I'm seeing here the report. Business resumed across Pakwach Bridge yesterday morning following a day-long closure of the facility when the river Tangi burst its banks into the wee hours of Saturday. That was quite very sad right there. The floods which cut off Karuma Pakwach Road, leaving several people stranded, were attributed to a downpour on Thursday and Friday. And so you can see businesses just resumed today, but over the weekend it's been quite very, very crucial and very tricky in regarding to the business activities in the district that's of Pakwach right there. As a result, police and the Uganda Coast Defense Forces soldiers were deployed at the scene to restrain hundreds of passengers and trucks who wanted to cross from both sides. Yeah, that's what regarding that. So, but the good news is that the business has resumed straight away right there. And also, as I wind up the report here, that's Miss Josephine, that's Angusha, the West Nile Regional Police spokesperson, say that the road was open to the public after the water levels are subsided. And when I read here, it shows that people were not patient enough, as majority wanted to actually transact businesses, something which is not really quite very, as much as you want to make the money, it's very important to consider the aspect of safety, because at the end of the day, if you are alive, you can make quite more money. But people were showing there was a lack of patience, and the police literally, the Uganda People's Defense Forces had to come in and calm these people down to relax a bit. And of course now, I'm still in the Daily Monitor, I'm seeing here as Janet hails technology for providing access, that's to safe water. Very interesting. The Minister of Education, that's Ms. Janet Museveni, has said that the sour bag technology will provide access to safe and clean water for people at grassroots levels. It's so very, very important to access clean water. So the sour bag unique product design utilizes a plastic formulation which announces ultraviolet sun rays to penetrate the water, thus deactivating the dangerous pathogens. That's Mrs. Museveni said while launching the For Life Sour Safe project for Uganda program at Katabi Town Council, that's in Wakiso district. So you can see something that is really quite essential. We are talking about technology and access to clean water, and not so many Ugandans can actually access clean water. And such initiatives with the improvements in technology, this really makes the dream really come to reality. And of course, Uganda, we are really promising that area of technology. The only that is needed is the support from the higher government, of course, the higher government officers. As I went up this report, she said the innovation is timely because it keeps one hydrated, which is a preventive measure for the COVID-19 pandemic. That's the statement of Ms. Janet Museveni, the Minister of Education. And now, let's cross over to the international news stories right here. And of course, we are going to start with Zambia, as the Zambia wins IMF, that's the International Monetary Board approval for $1.3 billion US dollar. That's a loan program. The International Monetary Fund has granted Zambia $1.3 billion in support as part of an agreement to restructure the massive debt that has sunk the Southern African country's economy. And of course, looking at the 3-year-old program, aims to restore debt sustainability, create fiscal space for essential social spending, and strengthen economic governance. That's the International Monetary Fund said in a statement that's on late Wednesday. In 2020, the pandemic, in 2020, during the pandemic, Zambia became the first African country to have defaulted on its estimated $17.3 billion external debt. Also, the country defaulted on that. A substantial strengthening of fiscal controls is needed to support fiscal adjustment as a result to address governance and corruption vulnerabilities. That's saying the IMF Managing Director, that's Georgieva, yes, regarding that report. And in addition, growth has been too slow to reduce poverty, inequality, and of course malnutrition rates, which are among the highest in the world. That's according to the officials from the International Monetary Fund making that statement. Zambia is in a debt distress and needs a deep, comprehensive debt treatment. In the past negotiations, previous governments have failed to unlock bailout packages, but since then the election of the president, that's Hakainde Hichilema, last year, progress has been made in restoring relations with the creditors. So you can see that's something. Zambia defaulting on the debt, and majority of the creditors actually withdrew. So there has been peace talks, talks to ensure that actually such schemes are resumed. And that's it with the Zambia. And now let's cross over. That's to Indonesia, and that's the city, the capital city. That's Jakarta. Indonesia hikes fuel prices by 30%. That's cuts, and also it cuts energy subsidies. So you can see the fuel prices rising by 30%, and also the government has cut the subsidies in regarding to the fuel prices. Fuel prices increased by about 30% across Indonesia. That's Saturday, after the government reduced some of the costly subsidies that have kept inflation in South Asia's largest economy among the lowest. Indonesians have been fretting for weeks. About a looming increase in the price of subsidized that's Patel Ron. That's the gas actually sold in that country, sold by Pertamina, the state-owned oil and gas company. Long lines of motorbikes and cars snacked around gas stations as motorists waited for hours to fill their tanks with cheaper gas before the increase that took effect. That's starting on this Saturday. President Joko Widodo said that the decision to increase the fuel prices was his last option, as the country's energy subsidy had tripled this year to 502 trillion that's rupees. That's about $34 billion from its original budget, triggered by rising global prices of oil and gas. The finance minister, that's Sri Mulyani, said authorities were monitoring the impact on inflation and economic growth of the rise in the fuel prices. Inflation has been relatively modest, with the shock being mostly absorbed through a budget that's bolstered by energy subsidies. Inflation hit 4.6% in August as Bank of Indonesia, that's the central bank, has said it would raises the inflation outlook in response to the government fuel policy. And of course, still, the minister said in a separate news conference that the government would provide 150,000, that's about $10 cash handouts to cushion the impact of the fuel price increase on 20.6 million poor families until that's the year end. The total cost of the handouts will be 12.4 trillion rupee, which will be reallocated. That's from the budget for energy subsidies. And as I wind up this report, she said that the government, that's the minister, that the government will also spend 9.6 trillion rupee, that's about $644 million, will spend that money on salary assistance to about 16 million low-paid workers, and 2.17 trillion rupee, that's 145 million, will go to subsidizing transport costs, particularly for motorcycle taxi drivers and also fishermen. Yes, and that's the matters happening in Indonesia right there. And now let's cross over straight to South Africa. On Africa, of course, the South African court bans offshore and gas exploration by Shell. The South African court has upheld a ban imposed on the energy giant, that's Shell, from using seismic waves to explore for oil and gas of the offshore Indian coast. And of course, the judgment delivered in Makanda on Thursday marks a monumental victory for the environmentalists concerned about the impact of the exploration, the exploration would have on the whales and other marine life. The 2014 decision granting the right for the exploration of oil and gas in the Transkei and Algoa exploration areas is reviewed and set aside. And of course, that's according to the High Court ruling in the southern city. Civil rights organizations and civilians celebrated that's outside the courthouse following the verdict, according to the local media. A Shell spokesperson said the company respects the court's decision and would review the judgment to determine the next steps. Shell did not say if it would appeal against the judgment or not. Of course, it remains committed to South Africa and their role in the energy transition. That's according to the statements from the officials right there. And of course, last December, the same court had issued an interim order prohibiting the firm from going ahead with its plans. The Green Connection, one of the environmental and human rights organizations that filed the case against Shell, said that the civil societies, traditional communities, and the small-scale fishermen have once again been vindicated by the courts. The petroleum firm was said to collect 3D seismic data over more than 6,000 square kilometers of the ocean of South Africa's wild coast. That's a 300-kilometer, and of course, that's being equivalent to 185 miles stretch of rich waters that's housing exquisite marine life and natural reserves. Campaigners urged the research would have sent extremely loud shock waves every 10 seconds or 24 hours a day for 5 months, potentially harming the marine species and their routines. And South Africa's Energy Ministry had backed the scheme and criticized those who opposed it as thwarting investment to the country's development. And of course, that's regarding Shell, that regarding quite so aggressive right there regarding the exploration into the deep seas, but that's going to be very harmful, and of course the authorities have neglected that. It's very important, and I believe that was quite a positive step being taken by the South African government officials. And at this very time, let's get into the business tips and quotes. But firstly, let's take a look at the business tip of the day. The tip of the day today, push for a decision. And of course, as we see that maybe it is terrible, maybe it is a terrible place to be. It's not good for you. It's not good for the customer. You are left unsure if the customer is or will even ever be ready to buy. And the customer is in limbo waiting for a solution. When you know that prospects have enough information to make good decision, push them to make one. So that's very important. That goes back to you, the entrepreneur. You are in your company, and of course you're pushing the decision. It's very important that these decisions are put into immediate effect, because at the end of the day, the decision you make has an impact on the customer that is going to purchase your product. So it's very important to be very critical in regarding to that. And of course, if they're not willing, take the lead, take the charge, push that decision. And of course, it's going to come to effect because you're looking at your customers, and the customers are not going to be there to think, but you are thinking for them as an entrepreneur right there into a company. And that's for the tip. And now let's take a look at the business quote of the day. And this is a quote from Colin, that's Powell, the U.S. statesman and retired 4-star general in the United States Army. He says, "A dream does not become a reality through magic." Take a pause right there. A dream does not become a reality through magic. It takes sweat, determination, and hard work. These are they sound normal words that are being made on a daily basis, but they really carry an amount of weight regarding aspects of life. These are real life, because we dream things. You dream about starting up this big company. You want to invest this amount of billions of dollars, but at the end of the day, what makes that a reality is hard work and determination. And of course, and above all, when it comes to hard work, remember one aspect is that it's very important to know who are you going to be in touch with, that you cannot achieve a dream alone. It's teamwork. You have to ensure that you cooperate with actually quite a number of people to ensure that you have an enormous teamwork and ensure that the dream becomes a success. Because I'll tell you that majority of the people that we look up to, and they're very successful people, these are people that didn't just wake up one day and stride alone, but it was a team. It's very important. I believe in destiny, and I believe that what we call the destiny helpers, the people that are going to help you achieve your dream, or that thing that you've been made to do into this world. And of course, you be a person of purpose. That's very, really very important for you to notice, to understand that actually hard work and determination. But of course, among hard work, don't forget the aspect of teamwork, because building a team in itself, it's also hard work. Let's get into a short commercial break. We shall be returning with the Coffee Court. Good morning. Stick around.